All right. We are back here at Song of the Day, coming to you from the Rock Cave. I'm your host, Mark Pierce. It is Friday. You know what that means? Say it with me. It is Octane Friday. And we are getting close to Christmas, but we're not quite there yet for Christmas music. I do have my Slayer shirt on for Octane Friday. We're not doing Slayer for Song of the Day today, but we could on Octane Friday. But I was in the mood for a little bit of this band. We've done plenty on this band, but not this particular album. And I heard something the other day and started reading about it, and I was like, yeah, we can do that. So we are talking about AC/DC today. I love AC/DC. We could cover all their albums, and I'd be fine with that. But we're going back to this time in 1978. Their live album, If You Want Blood, You've Got It. It's really called If You Want Blood on the cover. Is heading up the charts after its release on November 21st, 1978, again in the United States. Their first live album, their only live album with Bon Scott, and considered one of the greatest live albums of all time. It's always on the lists. Everyone loves this record, but do you know it? Have you listened to it? AC/DC is tough, right? Like, this is early stuff. This is Bon Scott stuff. A lot of people can't tell the difference between the Bon Scott era and the Brian Johnson era if they're casual fans. And, of course, it was hard to tell the difference when you were young and all that stuff. And there's a reason why that happened. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But again, this record came out 6 months after Powerage. And it's recorded live in Glasgow, Scotland, at the Apollo there. And this was just a blistering set. I mean, think about this. The 70s live albums were just like ad nauseum. That was their thing, right? Double album, triple album, Kiss live, Peter Frampton live, everybody live. Huge, long guitar solos. Had to put those multiple records out. AC/DC was like, we're not doing that. We're gonna kick some serious butt and just get through this set. And that's exactly what Malcolm Young said years later after their second live album. He's like, I prefer our first live album. We were young, fresh, vital, and kicking ass. That's what he said. And they're right. Even if you're not a huge AC/DC fan, if you're just a hard rock fan, you got to listen to this thing from beginning to end. I mean, if you were at the show, if you saw AC/DC in 1978, pretty big deal, I would say, and playing smaller areas. They played small arenas there. The cover, that amazing cover, see, now when I was a kid, when I was trying to figure out music, again, we talked about this the other day, you didn't have exposure. All you could do was go to the record store and just either look at the rack of 45s and buy the singles off the Hot 100, or if you went to the albums, you could maybe buy the ones you know, or sometimes you just bought a record based on the cover. I totally did. And this cover, I mean, that made you want to buy it all together, right? Even if you didn't know the songs. But that was a cover shoot done actually in the United States. It was shot at Boston's Paradise Theater, the legendary Paradise Theater in Boston. Imagine seeing AC/DC there in the late 70s. I only went to a show there once. I saw O Positive there in the 90s. But that's pretty amazing. The whole album release thing with AC/DC, remember, big in Australia. The brothers are from Scotland. The show actually is famous because when they come back and do the encore, they come out in those Scottish football strip, the outfits there for the encore. That was a pretty big deal. But they had some album releases, and then they kept putting out records, and then they got big in the United States. So there's this whole thing, like they had these records, and then they weren't breaking in the United States. The record companies were not interested. They said they weren't going to go anywhere. And then finally, Highway to Hell picks up some traction. So then they have to go backwards, right? Like they had merged some records together to make one record, and then the whole story with Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. That's the one that is just so weird, right? Because that was their third album. They started working that in 1975, I think, somewhere around there. And then they released it over there. It wasn't available in the United States. But then Highway to Hell starts getting big, and so the imports of Dirty Deeds start showing up. Bon Scott dies. and that was 1980, right? They get the new singer, Brian Johnson. They put out Back in Black. That also is obviously 50 million copies, getting big. So what do? They rush to get Dirty Deeds out in the United States. So they release it in the United States. This record's been out for 5 years or whatever. So they put it out after Back in Black. But this album has the old singer on it. They have a new singer, and it's got Bon Scott on it, and it's older material, and it's like just shortly before they're getting ready to put out For Those About to Rock. Super uncomfortable position for the band. They're sandwiched two records with their new singer, with this United States release with their old singer. They had to change their set live. It didn't give as much attention to their new record. It outsold the new record. It was a total mess, complete mess. But I remember buying that Dirty Deeds record in the record store. I can picture holding the album. And that's when my AC/DC love affair started. But this record, I remember holding this record and just being, gotta get this. And just bought it blindly, and it was all Bon Scott. And so anyway, that's the story of the confusion, at least in my opinion. But this set list, let's talk about this. This, again, the blistering is the right word for it. Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be. Bad Boy Boogie. The Jack. Oh, the Jack live is so good. Problem Child, awesome. Whole Lotta Rosie. I mean, that's got to be up there for Song of the Day. That's awesome. Rock and Roll Damnation. I mean, they were going to put out a greatest hits, and that's the first thing they were going to do at this time for this, and then they decided to go with a live record instead. High Voltage, awesome. That's just so good, so good. Let There Be Rock and Rocker. Well, they did this whole thing with Rocker. It was merged with another song, actually live. They were going to put both on there. They took half of it out. Then we reissued it and took it off and put another one on there. There was all this stuff. But anyway, all these songs came from Powerage, Let There Be Rock, TNT, Dirty Deeds, all those things came from there. So awesome record. You got to play this thing from beginning to end to truly understand just how good this record is. But if you're going to go with one song of the day, this is a tough one for me. This is really tough. But I listened to this, and it's got to be High Voltage for me. It's just a good one. So good. So that's your song of the day, but you're going to listen to this whole album, a little bit of AC/DC in the Rock Cave on Octane Friday, rocking the Slayer shirt. There you go. Boom. Enjoy it. Play it today. Tell me what you think. I want to hear those comments. If you've never heard it, play it. That's your assignment. Have a good one. And as usual, I'll catch you on the flip side.